The most common illness affecting politicians is memory loss. It's at its most acute and embarrassing when an opposition party becomes a government or a government an opposition. In such cases, there is almost a full and general amnesia. They forget everything. The opposition condemns what in power it supported, and the government endorses what in opposition it condemned. Now, this is particularly true for party leaders. For example, once a very long time ago, a future party leader, speaking of bundling legislation in one big fat bill, said this: "How can members represent their constituents on various areas when they're forced to vote in a block on such legislation and such concerns?" Well, that was the young Stephen Harper in his days as backbencher. Once he crossed the threshold of 24 Sussex, however, he himself bought the practice of bundling a huge mass of legislation into one furious parliamentary furball, so-called omnibus legislation, to unthought-of frequency. One of the medical literature's great examples of absolute memory failure. Now, the Liberals tried to help him. They scourged omnibus bills. They called them an insult to Parliament, likened the Harper practice to dictatorship. And I think it was out of sympathy to Mr. Harper that Justin Trudeau put this statement in their platform during the last election. Stephen Harper has used omnibus bills to prevent Parliament from properly reviewing and debating his proposals. We will change the House of Commons standing orders to bring an end to this undemocratic practice. Yet, here we are in 2017, and there's a Liberal 300-page budget bill crammed to the gunnels, including changes to the very office that oversees the federal budget, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the setting up of a whole new $37 billion infrastructure bank, the Judges Act, the Parliament Act, the Food and Drug Act. The only thing missing from this jumble is the kitchen sink. And that's because the sink is still out for repairs after the Harper crowd tossed it in their last bill. Well, what's after happening? Isn't this the Liberals now cruising down the same stream as the undemocratic Conservatives? Absolutely not. This is the same scourge that afflicted the Tories: total memory loss. Only cynics think it's raw politics and hypocrisy and confusing what is obviously a medical problem with naked partisan trickery. Rather, the Liberals are the victims, like poor Mr. Harper was a victim, of the inevitable mental decline, the gutting of memory that afflicts every party happy enough to pass from opposition to power. It's a terrible sickness that all politicians go through, and we must give them our very greatest sympathy and support. For The National, I'm Rex Murphy.